Welcome to the Rustic Garden Homestead. Today's video is all about transplanting your pepper plants. So over my shoulder you can see that I'm using containers. I sink the containers about halfway into the ground, cut out half the bottom. It's just a nice way to plant and grow. It allows you to conserve resources, makes watering easier, weeding easier, and it's just one way to go about it. Yeah, you could just put these into an earth mound or a row, and when you do that, it works. You know, just follow the same principles. However, you do have to water more often and you do have to weed more often. This just simplifies all those different garden chores you have to do when you're growing peppers. This is 3 days after the video. Peppers look great. It's been 75 degrees and I'm keeping up on the watering. I'll be explaining that throughout the video. I like the sunken containers, and a lot of people say, can you just put them in the earth? Of course you can. However, with these sunken containers, you can see how the sides are raised. You can raise the mulch up higher. Really keeps the plants cooler come, the middle of the summer. If you were just doing earth mounds that were only 15 inches wide, about 40 centimeters, that's going to dry out really quickly. I just flood these containers up to the top. Gets in plenty of moisture. The plastic keeps the moisture in there. I could go ahead and put some mulch down, which I'll do, probably in June, when the warmth is totally here. Right now, I want the sun to beat down on this, heat up, warm the roots so that I get some acceleration in the growth of the pepper. The black plastic helps with that. This method, I think, is just a nice, clean way to grow the peppers in a really narrow footprint. This is what the pepper space looks like coming out of winter. A little bit overgrown, a lot overgrown, but it's real easy to clean up. That's one of the reasons I like this. A very small footprint, 13 containers, 2 pepper plants per container. I'm going to do hot peppers in this area. That's going to be 26 plants, just going down this little row. And the maintenance is simple, cleanup is simple, feeding is simple. It's just a nice way to grow a lot of peppers in a small space. The quick cleanup took about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, nothing fancy. Just get stuff out of the way that you don't want growing in there. Throw it to the side. This looks pretty good. The soil is nice. I mean, one of the beauties of using these containers is you get to concentrate the good stuff into the containers. So the next step is I use any organic granular fertilizer. I have lots of videos on it. I'll link a video in the video description to talk about how to buy your organic granulars. I buy whatever is cheapest as long as NP and K is represented. A 5-5-5 NP and K, a little bit less, tiny bit more is fine. If you're using other fertilizers that are like a 10-10-10 or a 20-20-20, they're really high in the NP and K and they're okay to use. But I'm gonna just, for the organic granulars, I just take one big handful and sprinkle it in. That's a lot of fertilizer. I'm gonna come back, put in a big scoop of compost, maybe some topsoil, raise the level a little bit, and then I mix it through. But only for the organic granular and I think this is probably like a 4-3-3, a handful like that. The other handful was kind of big. Drop one down, through each container, all 13 containers. Again, the 10-10-10s or the 20-20-20s, maybe do half of that or a quarter of that. You just don't need that much. In this case, I do recommend the organic granular. It decays slowly. It's great for the soil. It works nicely. And one of the things I try and do is concentrate better stuff in here. Next will go in the compost, some topsoil, we'll mix it through. Each container got the handful of organic granular, several shovelfuls of compost, and then all I do is really mix everything through. It takes, for this process, maybe another 30 minutes to go through and do it all. But I'm just gonna mix everything through, loosen it up, and then we'll get the 2 pepper plants per container into the ground. Everything is mixed through. The containers are 15 inches wide. That's about, 40 centimeters. 12 inches deep, that's about 30 centimeters. Half the bottom is cut out so the root systems do grow into the ground. This is just a nice way to contain resources. It's a really small footprint. I think this is probably 18 feet long. I can't convert that to meters in my head, but it doesn't take up a lot of space. So it's real easy to prepare, real easy to maintain. Watering's easy because I just fill this to the top of the rim with water. That's plenty. The root systems grow through the hole in the bottom. They get moisture down deeper, but it's just a nice clean way to grow in this space. It's gonna be 26 pepper plants. The peppers are in, and if you have a good ear, those are bluebirds arguing or something over there. I have a bunch of bluebird nests around here. They do a great job, I think, of managing insects, and they leave the plants alone. They don't bother the garden plants. So 26 peppers are in. Again, this is just a great way to grow them. Peppers like to be planted closely together. You can space them out in a container. You can put them right next to each other, but I do recommend putting 2 per container. Planting's really easy. I mean, you know, you can get fancy if you want, but these are just going in to just above where they were in the container, maybe to right where my finger is. And I'm just covering them over like that. Press them in. You really want to water these in as your next step because it was, number one, it's dry. You want the water to soak all the way down. And then we're going to hit them with the water-soluble fertilizer. If you're planting 2, I just put them next to each other, put the soil around them, and then just press them in lightly, and they're good to go. They do need trellising. You want to put something in there to support the pepper plants. They're kind of fragile, more fragile than you might think. I like using these tomato cages that don't really support tomato plants because they're too flimsy, but they're perfect for pepper plants. This is really important. This is where people make a lot of mistakes. I will link in the video description how to plant a tomato plant and 9 mistakes to avoid. Those mistakes hold true for your pepper plants and really any warm weather crop that you're transplanting. Remember, these guys only have this little tiny root ball, and we just put them into a nice container. I'm going to show you how to water and then feed them with a water-soluble fertilizer. Right now it's 75 degrees. The sun hitting the plant is going to really, you know, activate it basically. But very quickly, it's going to use up all the moisture in the root ball. Even though there's going to be a lot of water around the plant, until we really get to 10, 14 days, these roots are not going to reach out and be able to get to it. So you really want to water these plants every other day, at least every 3 days. It makes a big difference in really getting these plants off to a great start. They can very easily run out of water, get stressed, and then get harmed because the roots dry out, even though there's so much water around them. I already soaked in these containers. Another reason why I like the containers is I just flood them up to the sides, let the water drain through. So you really want to get in there. Well, let me set it to the right setting. And just soak in the soil. That's a little bit strong, but it's going to be fine. Again, a ton of water, and you just want to really moisten the soil everywhere. If you want to come in, again, I want to stress every other day, at least every 3 days, and make sure you're putting enough water right into that root ball area for that 14 days. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make, is that they underwater their transplants for that first 2 weeks. For fertilizing, any water-soluble fertilizer works. I'm affiliated with AgroThrive. I highly recommend them. They're a great organic water-soluble fertilizer. I really like it. So I like to water in everything first, make sure the moisture goes through the whole container, and then just a quick pour of the water soluble. That's plenty to take care of these plants easily for the next 4 weeks, if not for the next 6 or 8 weeks. You don't have to keep feeding these like every week or every other week. Let them grow, they're small. You want the roots to establish, and in about, I don't know, 60 days or so, we can feed them again with another water-soluble fertilizer. When they start producing, we can do a dressing of compost. But please subscribe and follow me. I'll show you how to take care of these plants over the whole season. That includes feeding, managing pests and disease, and how to harvest and use the peppers. Thanks so much for watching. And again, please subscribe. I'll show you how I take care of the pepper plants and my entire garden for 2025. I have a seed and garden shop at therustedgarden.com. Tomato and pepper seeds are $1.75 a pack. All other seeds are $1.50 a pack. Again, thanks so much for watching.